The studio lights were hot, always had been, but tonight they felt different. Ethan Kim adjusted his posture in the anchor chair, spine perfectly straight, shoulders level, chin at the angle that read as authoritative without arrogance. 15 seconds to air. The teleprompter glowed with the night's lead story. Another political scandal. Another powerful man's carefully constructed image crumbling in real time. He knew something about constructed images. The scent blocker on his wrist had been reapplied twice today already. Studio heat always made them wear off faster. He'd been on suppressants since college, back when he'd first presented as Omega, and immediately decided that particular detail would never define his career. Control had a prescription. Control had backup plans. Control was everything. And we're live in 5, 4, 3. The floor director's hand counted down silently, and Ethan's face transformed. Not a smile. Never a smile on hard news. But a subtle shift in his eyes that conveyed both gravity and trustworthiness. It was a look he'd perfected over 8 years at this desk, a look that made him the most watched anchor in WestBridge News' 40-year history. Good evening. I'm Ethan Kim. Tonight we begin with breaking developments in the governor's corruption probe. His voice was rich, measured, clear. Each word landed with the weight of truth. Beneath the desk, his hands were clasped to keep them from shaking. Voice, face, narrative. If he held those, he held how the world saw him. What the world saw was competence. What they didn't see was the exhaustion that lived in his bones, the loneliness of his immaculate apartment. They didn't see the way he sometimes stood in front of his mirror, practicing expressions like an actor, preparing for a role where the stakes were his entire identity. They definitely didn't see the weekly pharmacy runs for suppressants that kept his designation invisible. The segment ran smoothly. It always did. Ethan had built his career on the promise of smooth. No mistakes, no surprises, no cracks in the armor. When they finally threw to commercial break, he exhaled and felt his vision tilt at the edges. Just fatigue, he told himself. Just the price of perfection. Beautiful work tonight, as always. The voice came from his left, warm and unnecessarily close. Ethan turned to find Noah Park leaning against the news desk with that smile, the one that had probably charmed every person he'd ever met, the one that looked genuinely delighted even when nothing particularly delightful was happening. Noah was tonight's guest, slated for the lifestyle segment in the second half of the broadcast. He was a reporter too, technically, though his beat was restaurant openings and celebrity charity galas rather than policy and crisis. The network loved him because he was pretty and charming and came from the kind of family that made advertisers happy. The Park family owned a media conglomerate that held minority stakes in half the outlets in the city, including WestBridge's parent company. An alpha, of course. They always were in his family. The kind of easy, unexamined confidence that came from never having to hide what you were. Ethan had met him twice before at company events and had thought him pleasant in the way decorative things were pleasant. Nice to look at, easy to forget. Up close, Noah was harder to dismiss. He had that alpha presence, the kind that didn't announce itself but simply assumed the world would rearrange itself to accommodate it. He was younger than Ethan by a few years, dressed like someone who'd never worried about being taken seriously, all soft cashmere and expensive cologne that probably had a name like Ambition or Legacy. Thanks, Ethan said, tone deliberately neutral. He began organizing his notes, a clear signal that the conversation was over before it started. Noah didn't take the hint. I always wondered if you're like that off camera too. All perfect and untouchable. Ethan looked up, eyebrow raised. Is there a question in there, or are you just making observations? Call it professional curiosity. Noah's smile widened. We're both in the truth business, right? I'm just wondering if the Ethan Kim persona goes all the way through, or if there's someone different underneath. There's no persona, Ethan said flatly. This is who I am. Really? Noah tilted his head, studying him like he was a particularly interesting piece of art. Because from where I'm standing, you look like someone who's very, very good at playing a part. The observation landed uncomfortably close to something true. Ethan's response came sharper than intended. And from where I'm standing, you look like someone who's never had to work for anything in his life. Must be nice, coasting on family connections and charm. He expected Noah to bristle, to retreat, to prove himself as shallow as Ethan wanted him to be. Instead, Noah laughed. Genuine, surprised, delighted. Oh, you're mean when you want to be. I like that. The floor director called for final checks before the next segment. The studio crew moved through their routines, adjusting cameras and sound levels. In the brief lull, just off camera where guests waited between segments, Noah stepped closer, ostensibly to check something on Ethan's lapel. Your mic is crooked, Noah said quietly. Let me fix it. His fingers grazed Ethan's collar, adjusting the small microphone clip there. His touch was light, professional, but his fingertips brushed the hollow of Ethan's throat for just a second, right over where the scent glands would be if Ethan hadn't learned to suppress every visible sign of his designation. Ethan's breath caught. Noah went very still, eyes flicking up, dark and suddenly very focused. For a fraction of a second, his nostrils flared like he'd caught something. Impossible. The blockers were pharmaceutical grade. But the way Noah was looking at him now. Your pulse jumps when you're annoyed, Noah murmured, still close enough that Ethan could feel warmth radiating off him. Close enough that Ethan could catch Noah's scent, clean and cedar sharp, with an undertone that made Ethan's hindbrain sit up and pay attention. Move your hand, Ethan said, but his voice came out rougher than intended. Noah's smile turned knowing. Make me. They held each other's gaze for a beat too long, the air between them charged with something Ethan absolutely did not have time for. Then the floor director called out a 2-minute warning. Noah stepped back smoothly, that easy smile sliding into place like nothing had happened. But something had shifted. Noah's charm had a sharper edge now, more focused, like he'd noticed something interesting and wasn't going to let it go. See you after the segment, Noah said, heading toward the guest chair. Ethan watched him go, annoyed at himself for engaging. More annoyed at the lingering warmth on his throat where Noah's fingers had been. Most annoyed that part of him wanted to feel it again. He checked his wrist blocker. Still active. Still working. Noah couldn't have smelled anything. Could he? The lifestyle segment went exactly as expected. Noah was effortlessly charming on camera, talking about some new fusion restaurant with the kind of enthusiasm that made even Ethan's jaded viewers lean forward. But every time the camera cut away, Ethan caught Noah glancing at him with that same assessing look, like he was trying to solve an equation that didn't quite add up. When the broadcast finally ended and the studio began its post-show breakdown, Ethan gathered his things quickly. He had a rule. Leave before anyone could engage him in small talk, before anyone could ask how he was really doing, before the mask could slip even slightly. Ethan! Noah appeared in his path, blocking the exit. Grab a drink with me? I don't drink with colleagues, Ethan said automatically. We're not really colleagues, though, are we? You do news. I do fluff pieces about overpriced restaurants. Noah's self-awareness should have been disarming. Ethan had been disarmed before. It never ended well. Still no. Coffee, then. Tomorrow morning. I'll let you pick the place so you can control the whole thing. Noah was relentless, but there was something genuine beneath the charm. something that suggested he actually wanted the answer to be yes. Ethan paused. In that pause, Noah's expression softened into something less performative. Look, I know I come off as the spoiled rich alpha who doesn't take anything seriously. And maybe that's true most of the time, but I also know what it's like to feel like you're playing a part every day. My family has expectations too. Different ones than yours, but just as exhausting. The honesty caught Ethan off guard. He found himself saying, 1 coffee, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. There's a place called Slate on 5th. I'll be there. Noah's whole face lit up. Perfect. And Noah, Ethan added, if you're late, I'm leaving. I wouldn't dream of it. Noah pulled out his phone. Number? So I can confirm I'm not standing you up? Ethan recited it. He walked to his car with the uncomfortable feeling that he'd just lost a negotiation he hadn't meant to enter. Also, strangely, with something that felt like anticipation. The drive home was quiet. Ethan lived in a converted warehouse loft in the Arts District. High ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture that looked expensive because it was. Everything in its place. Everything carefully curated. A life that looked full from the outside and felt empty from within. He went straight to the bathroom and checked his scent blockers under the light. Still intact, still working. The paranoia was probably just paranoia. He heated up leftover takeout, ate standing at the kitchen island, checked his email compulsively. There was one from Julian Co., formerly his co-anchor, now running for city council and apparently losing badly based on the latest polls. The subject line read, "Guess who's coming back?" Ethan's stomach dropped. He opened the email. The political thing didn't work out. Funny how voters want authenticity and then punish you for being honest. Anyway, I'm done bleeding money and credibility. Network wants me back. I start Monday. Looking forward to working with you again. Or should I say, looking forward to taking what should have been mine in the first place. See you soon, Julian. Ethan set down his fork. Julian Co. was brilliant, ambitious, and utterly without sentimentality. They'd competed for the primetime chair 3 years ago, and Ethan had won by the narrowest margin. Julian was a beta, which meant he'd built his career on pure competence, without the complications of designation politics. He'd smiled through the announcement, shaken Ethan's hand, and then left for politics with a grace that had felt more like a threat than a concession. Now he was back. If Ethan knew anything about Julian, he knew the man never forgot a slight and never forgave a victory that wasn't his own. Julian also had connections everywhere. Political donors, media executives, even board members at the parent company. His failed council run had been funded by half the city's elite, and those relationships didn't vanish just because he'd lost. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Noah. Just making sure you didn't give me a fake number. Also, you left your pen at the studio. I'm keeping it hostage until coffee tomorrow." Despite himself, Ethan's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. He typed back, "That pen costs $8. Keep it." Noah's response came immediately. "The principle matters. See you at 9. Slate on 5th. I already looked it up. Very you." Ethan stared at the message, then made himself put the phone down. He should have been worried about Julian's return. Should have been strategizing, planning, controlling. Instead, he fell asleep thinking about Noah's fingers at his throat and wondering what the hell he was doing. The next morning, Ethan arrived at Slate exactly at 9. Noah was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 coffees in front of him. When he saw Ethan, he stood with that easy smile. "You're early," Ethan said. "So are you. Guess we're both control freaks." Noah gestured to the coffee. I ordered you an Americano, black, no sugar. Am I right? Ethan paused, then sat down. How did you know? You have the vibe of someone who thinks flavor is a weakness, Noah said, teasing but not meanly. Also, I asked around. Turns out people have opinions about you. I'm sure they do. Ethan accepted the coffee, fighting the urge to be pleased that it was exactly what he would have ordered. And what do these opinions say? That you're brilliant, terrifying, impossible to get close to, that you've never made a mistake on air, never missed a deadline, never let anyone see you sweat. Noah leaned forward slightly. Also that you eat lunch alone every day and leave every office party after exactly 45 minutes. Sounds efficient. Sounds lonely. The observation was too accurate, too intimate for a first coffee with someone who was still essentially a stranger. Ethan felt his defenses rise like walls. I didn't agree to this so you could psychoanalyze me. No? Then why did you agree? Good question. Ethan sipped his coffee, buying time. Curiosity, I suppose. You're persistent. I am when I want something. And what do you want? Noah's smile shifted into something less performative. Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. But I think it might involve getting you to admit you're human. I've never claimed otherwise. No, you've just spent your entire career proving you don't need anyone or anything, that you're above all the messy parts of being a person. Noah pushed a paper bag across the table. You're also someone who skips breakfast. I got you a croissant. Ethan looked at the bag, then at Noah. I'm not hungry. I know, but you will be in about an hour, and you'll be in back-to-back meetings with no time to eat. So take it or don't, but I'm not eating it just to make you feel less uncomfortable about being cared for. The casual accuracy of it landed uncomfortably. Ethan took the bag, his fingers brushing Noah's briefly. Thanks. I'm not trying to fix you, Noah said quietly. I'm trying to know you. Ethan's phone buzzed. A text from his producer. Network meeting, 10 a.m., mandatory. Julian's return announcement. Ethan's expression must have changed because Noah said, Bad news? Julian So is coming back. He's the anchor I beat for this position 3 years ago. Ah, the beta who ran for city council? At Ethan's surprised look, Noah shrugged. I pay attention to the competition, even when it's not my competition. I'm not worried, Ethan said automatically, then caught himself. The lie was too obvious. I'm adjusting my strategy. Noah studied him for a moment, then reached across the table and gently moved Ethan's coffee cup away from the edge where his hand had been resting. A small gesture, protective without being intrusive. For what it's worth, Noah said, I don't think anyone could take your place. You're too good at what you do. That's naive. Maybe, but I believe it anyway. Noah stood, pulling out his wallet. I've got this. You go prepare for your meeting. I can pay for my own coffee. I know you can, but you're not going to. Noah dropped cash on the table, then paused. Ethan, whatever Julian tries, don't let him make you think you're less than you are. You earned that chair. The sincerity caught Ethan off guard. He found himself nodding, unable to form words past the tightness in his chest. As he walked to his car, Ethan realized he was still holding the bag with the croissant. Later, sitting in the network meeting watching Julian charm everyone with his smooth return, Ethan ate it and thought about Noah's hand moving his coffee cup to safety. Small gestures, but they mattered. Over the next month, a pattern emerged. Noah would text, nothing invasive, Just small observations about his day, a song recommendation, a dumb joke that somehow always landed right when Ethan needed the distraction. Saw a cat today that looked exactly like you. Very dignified, extremely judgmental, possibly plotting world domination. I'm allergic to cats. That tracks. Then, you left the office at midnight again. That's not sustainable. How do you know when I leave? I pay attention. And later, I know you think accepting help is weakness, but what if it's just practical? Like letting someone carry the heavy things so you don't throw out your back. I don't need a metaphor about backs, but you do need sleep. Good night, Ethan. Ethan found himself looking forward to the messages. Found himself disappointed when a night passed without one. Found himself in dangerous territory. Julian returned officially the following week, exactly as he promised. Tom Ford suit, confident smile, firm handshakes. The role of the prodigal son returned. The network president positioned it as a strengthening of the news division, a dream team reunion. Ethan heard what wasn't being said. Julian was insurance. Julian was the backup plan. Julian was what happened when even perfection wasn't enough. After the meeting, Julian cornered him in the hallway. You look tired. I'm fine. Of course you are. You're always fine. Julian's smile was sharp. Must be exhausting, being perfect all the time. Don't worry. I'm here to take some of that pressure off. Think of me as your safety net. I don't need a safety net. Everyone needs a safety net, Ethan. Pride is what makes people fall. Julian walked away. Ethan stood there, feeling the walls close in. Later, alone in his office, dizziness returned, stronger now. He gripped the edge of his desk and waited for it to pass. His office door opened. Noah slipped inside, closed it behind him. You okay? You looked like you were about to pass out in that meeting. I'm fine. How did you... Julian looked way too satisfied when he left. Noah moved closer, concern genuine. When's the last time you ate? This morning? Liar. Your assistant said you skipped lunch again. Noah pulled a protein bar from his pocket and set it on the desk. Eat. I don't need... Ethan. Noah crouched beside his chair, bringing them eye to eye. His voice dropped lower, that alpha timbre that probably worked on everyone. You don't have to be steel every second. Not with me. The gentleness, the proximity, the way Noah looked at him like he mattered. It was too much. Ethan felt something crack. Don't say things like that. Why not? Because I might believe you. Noah's expression softened. Good. He reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind Ethan's ear. A small touch, tender, and suddenly Ethan forgot how to breathe. Their faces were inches apart. Noah's eyes dropped to Ethan's mouth, then back up. A silent question. Ethan leaned forward, just slightly. The door burst open. Their producer stuck her head in. Oh, sorry, didn't realize you had company. Ethan, they need you in the conference room. Now. Noah stood smoothly, stepping back like nothing had happened. I was just leaving. He left. Ethan sat there, heart pounding, feeling like he just barely avoided something wonderful and terrible in equal measure. That night, his phone lit up. For what it's worth, I would have kissed you. Ethan stared at the message for a full minute. He typed back, I know. And I don't know what I'm doing. Neither do I, but I'd like to figure it out. With you. Ethan closed his eyes, thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea, thought about how lonely his perfectly controlled life had become. "Okay," he typed. "Let's figure it out." 2 days later, after another brutal production meeting where Julian systematically undermined every decision Ethan made, Ethan escaped to an empty stairwell and pressed his forehead to the cool concrete. The door opened. Noah. "You don't have to follow me," Ethan said without opening his eyes. "I wasn't following. I was looking." Noah's footsteps echoed in the enclosed space. "You okay?" "I'm fine." "If you say fine one more time, I'm going to lose it." Noah stopped close enough that Ethan could feel his presence. "That meeting was a nightmare. Julian was deliberately sabotaging you." "I can handle Julian." "I know you can, but you shouldn't have to handle everything alone." Ethan opened his eyes. Noah stood 2 feet away, close enough to touch but respecting the distance. "Why do you care?" Ethan asked, genuinely curious. "Because I see you. The real you, not the perfect image you show everyone else. And that person deserves someone in their corner. You barely know me. I know you take your coffee black because you think needing sugar is weakness. I know you work until midnight because you're terrified of not being perfect. I know you're lonely, and you hate that you're lonely." Noah took 1 step closer. "I know your pulse jumps when I'm near you, just like mine does when I'm near you." Ethan's breath caught. "Noah, tell me to leave and I'll leave. Tell me to stop and I'll stop." Noah took another step, close enough now that Ethan could catch that cedar-sharp alpha scent, close enough to make Ethan's suppressed instincts stir. "But if you want this even half as much as I do, tell me." Ethan should have said no. Instead, he reached out and grabbed the front of Noah's shirt, pulled him close. Not a kiss, not yet. Just breath shared. Just the edge of something irrevocable. "This is a terrible idea," Ethan whispered. "Probably. We work together. Your family has stakes in the network. If this goes wrong, it might, or it might be exactly what we both need." Noah's hands came up to rest on Ethan's waist, gentle but grounding. "I'm willing to risk it if you are." Ethan pressed their foreheads together. For a moment, he let himself have this. Then footsteps echoed from the floor above. Reality snapped back into place. Ethan stepped away. "We can't do this here." "Then where?" "I don't know. I just need to think." Noah's expression was understanding, but there was heat in his eyes that made Ethan's skin feel too tight. "Okay, think. But Ethan, I'm not going anywhere." He left. Ethan stood in the stairwell for several minutes, trying to remember how to breathe normally, trying to ignore the fact that his carefully controlled world was coming apart at the seams. Part of him was grateful for it. The network holiday party was 3 weeks later. 3 weeks of stolen moments and charged glances, and text messages that grew increasingly intimate. 3 weeks of Ethan slowly, terrifyingly, letting Noah in. The party itself was the kind of event Ethan usually endured for exactly 45 minutes before escaping. But this year, Noah was there. Noah kept finding ways to pull Ethan into conversations that were actually interesting, kept positioning himself as a buffer between Ethan and the executives who wanted small talk about golf and sponsorships. "You're being obvious," Ethan murmured when they found themselves momentarily alone near the bar. "About what?" "About staying close to me. People will notice." "Let them." Noah's hand brushed Ethan's lower back for a second, just long enough to send electricity down Ethan's spine. "You've been here an hour. That's 15 minutes past your usual escape time. I'm calling that a victory." "I should go. Or you could stay. For once." Noah's voice dropped, more intimate. "I'm tired of pretending I'm the person my family wants me to be. The perfect alpha heir they can position and market and use for connections. I'm tired of performing. The honesty mirrored something Ethan felt every day. Before he could stop himself, he said, I'm tired of being alone, even when I'm surrounded by people, especially then. Then don't be alone tonight. The invitation hung in the air. Ethan looked at Noah, really looked, saw vulnerability, saw desire, saw risk. Your place or mine? Ethan heard himself say. Noah's face transformed. Yours. 20 minutes. They left separately. 20 minutes later, Noah knocked on Ethan's door. Inside, the city lights glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Neither of them turned on additional lamps. The low light felt safer, more intimate. I'm not good at this, Ethan admitted. At what? Letting people in, being anything other than what I show the world. Noah moved closer, slowly, giving Ethan every chance to retreat. Then just be you, whatever that looks like right now. And if I don't know who that is anymore, then we'll figure it out together. Noah lifted a hand, traced his fingertips along Ethan's jaw, feather light and electric. Tell me to stop, and I stop. Ethan's breath caught. He could feel his control slipping, the walls he'd maintained for years crumbling under the gentle pressure of Noah's presence. The vulnerability was terrifying. The relief was almost painful. Don't stop, Ethan whispered. Noah kissed him. Soft at first, questioning. Then deeper when Ethan responded with hunger that surprised them both. They moved through the apartment in a blur of closeness, hands and breath and the strange, dizzying relief of being chosen. Later, when they finally ended up in Ethan's bedroom, the world narrowed to warmth and murmured questions and Ethan's own willingness. Noah checked in, quietly, constantly. Ethan answered, honestly, each time. The night was intimate, tender, and not something Ethan could pretend was meaningless afterward. In the gray quiet that followed, tangled in sheets, Noah traced lazy patterns on Ethan's shoulder. You okay? Noah asked. Ethan stared at the ceiling, trying to find the old mask, trying to rebuild the old distance. He couldn't. I don't know, he admitted. I feel undefended. Is that bad? I don't know, Ethan said. Ask me in the morning. Noah pressed a kiss to his temple. I'll still be here in the morning. And he was. When dawn broke and Ethan woke, Noah was still there, sleeping peacefully beside him. Ethan watched him for a long moment, feeling something dangerous bloom in his chest. Something that felt like hope. He should have known better. But lying there in the morning light, with Noah's arm draped across his waist and the city coming alive outside his windows, Ethan let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, he could have this. It would cost him. He just didn't know how yet. 2 weeks after the holiday party, Ethan stood in his bathroom staring at the suppressant bottle in his hand. He was late. 1 day, then 2. By the 3rd day, dizziness had started. Subtle at first, then nausea. Missing a dose was careless. Missing several was reckless. Missing them after a night with an alpha carried a kind of risk he had spent his entire adult life avoiding. Ethan set the bottle down with shaking hands. He could take them now, correct course, force his body back into compliance. Or he could admit something he didn't want to face. That the moment Noah had kissed him, something had shifted. That for the first time in years, he wanted more than control. Ethan picked up the bottle. Then, With a decision that felt like stepping off a ledge, he unscrewed the cap and poured the pills down the sink. Political suicide. Career suicide. Choosing chaos over control. But it was his choice, and that mattered. A few weeks later, the symptoms stopped being subtle. Morning nausea, fatigue that sat heavy in his bones, a scent that no longer stayed perfectly muted, no matter how many times he reapplied blockers. Ethan told himself it was stress. He told himself it was long nights. He told himself anything except the one thing that made his pulse spike. Until the calendar forced the math on him. 6 weeks since the holiday party. 6 weeks since he'd let his guard down completely. Ethan called in sick for the first time in 3 years. Then he drove 20 minutes outside the city to a clinic in a strip mall, the kind of place that didn't ask questions and didn't keep records tied to employers. He paid cash, gave a fake name, filled out forms with hands that shook just slightly. When the nurse called Mr. Chen, he followed her into the exam room and submitted to the tests with the same controlled composure he brought to everything. The doctor was kind but efficient. Mr. Chen, the test is positive. You're pregnant. Based on your hormone levels, I'd estimate about 6 weeks. 6 weeks. The holiday party. Noah. Ethan sat in the parking lot afterward while the afternoon light shifted from gold to gray. His phone buzzed with messages. Noah asking if he was okay. His producer needing script approval. His assistant confirming tomorrow's schedule. Ethan ignored them all. He placed one hand on his stomach, flat and unchanged, hiding an entire future he hadn't planned for. He could protect his career, his image, everything he'd built. Or he could keep the life inside him and accept that control was already gone. Okay, he whispered. Okay, we're doing this. That night, Noah texted, I'm worried about you. Can I come over? Ethan stared at the message. He should say no. He should handle this alone. He should protect Noah from the consequences of their night together. But he was tired of being alone. Okay, he texted. Come over. Noah arrived within 20 minutes, windswept and genuinely concerned. He took one look at Ethan's face and said, What happened? I need to tell you something. Noah's expression shifted from worried to frightened. Okay, do you want to sit down? No. If I sit, I might not be able to say this. Ethan straightened his spine the way he did before going on air, gathered every ounce of courage he possessed, and looked Noah in the eye. I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air. Noah froze, his face cycling through shock, confusion, fear, and something that might have been joy before the fear swallowed it. Noah's voice cracked. He moved closer, reaching for Ethan, then stopping himself. How long have you known? Since today. Today? Relief flickered. Okay, so we're finding out together. That's good. He stepped closer, draped a throw blanket over Ethan's shoulders, even though the apartment was warm. You're shaking. Ethan hadn't noticed. Noah gestured. Can I? Ethan let him take his hand. Noah's fingers wrapped around Ethan's, solid and real. For a moment, Ethan almost believed this could work. Then Noah spoke. We need to figure out how to handle this. The word handle made Ethan's stomach drop. Handle it? I mean, Noah flinched, realized too late. God, that came out wrong. I mean, we need to make a plan. Think through options. This affects both of us, and my family. They can't know about this. Not yet. Your family, Ethan repeated, flat. Not until we figured out the best way to navigate this. Noah's voice rushed. My family has resources. People who can help us manage the situation quietly. Keep your designation private. We have lawyers who specialize in Omega rights, discretion protocols. Lawyers? Ethan pulled his hand away. We're talking about a baby, and you're already thinking about disclosure protocols and lawyers? That's not what I meant, Noah looked panicked. I meant people who can protect you. If anyone finds out you're an Omega, if this gets public before we're ready, Ethan, you know what happens to Omega anchors. The network will use it. Sponsors will get nervous. We need time to control the narrative before they can destroy everything you've built. So your solution is to hide me, Ethan said, voice going cold. To treat this like something shameful. I'm trying to be practical, Noah's voice rose. You're Ethan Kim. You're brilliant and strong, and you've built this entire life where no one knows you're an Omega. You'll survive this. But me? If my family finds out I got you pregnant, if this becomes a scandal before we have a strategy, they'll frame me as the reckless alpha who ruined the Golden Boy's career, and you as the manipulative Omega who trapped me. A strategy, Ethan said. That's what you're worried about. Not the baby, not us. Just how to spin it so your family doesn't get embarrassed. That's not fair. I'm scared, okay? Noah stepped closer, desperation in his eyes. I've never stood up to my family about anything. I don't know if I can start now. But I meant it when I said I'd be here. I want to be here. We just need time to figure out how to do this without it destroying us both. There is no way to hide a pregnancy forever, Ethan said quietly. Eventually, it will be visible. Eventually, your family will know. Eventually, my designation becomes public. The only question is whether you're going to stand with me or hide behind your family's lawyers when that happens. I'm not against you. I'm trying to protect both of us. By treating me like a liability that needs to be managed, Ethan's voice cracked. Either you're with me or you're not. Either this baby is something you want or it's a problem to solve. And right now, you're making it very clear which one you think it is. Noah's face crumpled. He looked devastated. You're not alone in this, he said. Even if you hate me right now, you're not alone. I care about this baby. I care about you. I just don't know how to choose you without losing everything else. Honesty without courage. Another form of abandonment. Then you've already made your choice, Ethan said. He opened the door. Good night, Noah. Noah stood there, clearly wanting to say more, clearly not knowing how. Finally, he pulled a key from his pocket. Take this, my apartment, in case you need anything, in case you change your mind about letting me try. His voice broke. I know I'm messing this up, but I do care. I care so much it's terrifying. I just don't know how to do this without losing everything. Then maybe you need to figure out what everything actually means to you, Ethan said. Because from where I'm standing, you're more afraid of disappointing your family than you are of losing me. He took the key. Noah left. The door closing sounded like an ending. Ethan stood very still, one hand pressed to his stomach. It's okay, he whispered. We'll be okay. I'll make sure of it. The next 4 weeks were careful choreography. Ethan hid the pregnancy with strategic wardrobe choices and camera angles. At 10 weeks, his body was still cooperating. He was tall and broad-shouldered, the changes subtle enough to disguise. Without suppressants, his scent was gradually becoming more noticeable, but the industrial-strength blockers he'd switched to were holding. Barely. He worked twice as hard to prove he was still perfect, still untouchable, still in control. Noah kept trying. Texts throughout the day. Remember to eat. I'm thinking about you. I'm sorry. Small packages left at Ethan's office. Ginger candies, saltines, a book about omega pregnancy that Noah had clearly researched. One morning, prenatal vitamins appeared on Ethan's desk with a note. Please take care of yourself. I'm trying to figure out how to be brave enough for this. N. Ethan kept the vitamins, took them, hated that it made him feel cared for. In meetings, Noah positioned himself as a subtle shield, redirecting conversations when executives pushed too hard. He was trying, in his way. Then he would ruin it. "You're Ethan Kim," Noah said one afternoon when Ethan snapped at him for hovering with soup. "You don't need anyone. You've never needed anyone." Ethan turned on him. "Is that what you tell yourself? That I don't need help, so you don't have to actually give it? That's not what I meant. It never is." Ethan looked away. "Stop bringing me things if you're not going to actually stay." Noah left the soup anyway. Ethan ate it later, alone, hating himself for wanting more. The first time the blockers truly failed happened late one evening at 10 weeks. Ethan pushed through a difficult broadcast, feeling increasingly nauseous. Heat from the lights, stress from Julian's constant pressure, and the physical strain of pregnancy all stacked until his body stopped cooperating. When the cameras finally cut, Ethan barely made it to his office before the nausea overwhelmed him. He was doubled over the wastebasket when Noah appeared in the doorway. "Jesus, Ethan!" Noah was inside immediately, closing the door. Then he went still. "Your scent." "Don't," Ethan managed. "How long have you been off suppressants?" "Since the holiday party." Shock. Understanding. Something like awe. "You chose this," Noah said softly. "You chose to keep." "Don't make it about choices you didn't respect the first time." Ethan swallowed hard. "Just help me or leave." Noah grabbed the water bottle from Ethan's desk, uncapped it, held it while Ethan took small sips. "Better?" Ethan nodded, not trusting his voice. Noah wet a paper towel in the sink, wiped Ethan's forehead and the back of his neck. Tender. Careful. It made something inside Ethan loosen and ache. "I hate this," Ethan whispered. "I know." Noah's hand cupped the back of Ethan's neck, grounding, gentle. His voice dropped to that instinctive alpha register. "I know you hate needing help, but you're allowed to need people. You're allowed to be human." "That's the problem," Ethan said. "I can't afford to be human. Not now. Not when everyone's watching for me to slip." "Then let me be the one who watches you be human," Noah said. "You don't have to be steel every second, not with me." For a moment, Ethan let himself lean into it. Then reality crashed back. "Where will you be when your family finds out?" Ethan asked. "When they start asking questions about paternity verification and disclosure protocols? Will you still be here, or will you be managing the situation?" Noah pulled back, hurt flashing across his face. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" Ethan stood up, putting distance between them. "Every time I start to trust you, you remind me why I shouldn't." "I'm trying, Ethan. I'm trying so hard." "Trying isn't enough." Ethan turned away. "You should go." "Ethan, please, just go." Noah left. Ethan sat down and stared at the closed door. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like loneliness. The jealousy incident happened the following week, during a production meeting at 11 weeks. A junior reporter, bright and eager and clearly attracted to Noah, kept finding excuses to lean close, laugh at his jokes, touch his arm. Noah was polite and professional. He didn't pull away. Ethan felt something hot and possessive coil in his chest. The pregnancy hormones didn't help. Neither did the fact that his scent was getting harder to control, and he could smell the junior reporter's interest, could smell Noah's easy alpha confidence. On air that night, Ethan was colder than usual, more clipped in his transitions. After the broadcast, Noah cornered him in the hallway. "You were jealous." "I was focused on doing my job professionally." "You were jealous." Noah's voice was soft, almost pleased. "It's okay to admit it." "There's nothing to be jealous of. We're not together." "We slept together. You're carrying my baby." Noah stepped closer, lowering his voice. "What are we then?" "Complicated." "I can live with complicated." Noah put a hand against the wall beside Ethan's head, not touching but close enough that Ethan could feel the heat of him. "Can you?" Ethan swallowed. "I don't know." "Then let me make it simple." Noah's voice dropped. "I think about you constantly. I lie awake wondering if you're okay, if you're eating, if you're scared. I bring you things because I don't know what else to do with all these feelings. And yes, I'm terrified of my family, and yes, I keep saying the wrong things. But none of that changes the fact that I want you. Want this. Want us." "Pretty words," Ethan said. "But words don't mean much when your actions keep contradicting them." Noah nodded, pain plain on his face. "You're right." He stepped back. "So let me prove it. However long it takes, I'll prove it." He walked away. That night, Noah called instead of texting. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "No." Ethan lay in bed, one hand on his stomach, trying to imagine a future that didn't end in disaster. "Me neither." Noah's voice was soft in the darkness. "I keep thinking about you, about the baby, about how scared you must be. You can't make it easier." "I know, but I can be here, even if it's just on the phone." They talked for an hour about nothing important. Noah told him about growing up suffocated by alpha expectations, about being told his worth was in his designation and his family name. Ethan admitted he'd chosen his career over every relationship he'd ever almost had, that being an Omega in broadcast news meant being twice as perfect, just to be seen as half as good. "This is how it starts," Ethan said eventually. "We have these conversations. I start to believe you, and then it ruins me. Or it saves you. You have a lot of confidence for someone who still hasn't told his family." Silence. Then Noah said, "I'm working on it, I promise." "Promises aren't enough." "I know," Noah said, "but they're all I have right now. I'm trying to be brave enough for this. For you. I'm just not there yet." At least he was honest. "Then get there fast," Ethan said, "because time's running out." The morning everything changed started with a production meeting from hell at 12 weeks. Ethan had been sick all morning. The blockers failed more frequently now, and he'd started wearing multiple layers to hide any physical changes. Julian circled like a shark, undermining every decision Ethan made. When the nausea overwhelmed him, Ethan excused himself and barely made it to the bathroom. He emerged pale and shaking. Julian was waiting in the hallway. "You look terrible." "I'm fine," Ethan said automatically, gripping the wall for balance. "You're not." Julian's eyes were sharp. "You've been sick for weeks. Sick in the mornings, scent blockers failing, exhausted. Either you're dying or you're pregnant, and you don't look like you're dying." Ethan's blood ran cold. "That's quite a leap." "Is it?" Julian stepped closer. You stopped taking personal time for what I assume were suppressant prescription renewals. Then you filed a medical accommodation request for recurring appointments. The scheduler initially coded it as prenatal, before someone caught the error and changed it to generic medical. But I have a friend in operations who flags anomalies for me. Useful. The floor dropped out from under Ethan. That's confidential. Of course it is. Julian's expression was unreadable. HR is required to protect medical information and designation privacy. But systems make mistakes. Data trails leak when people aren't careful. He held Ethan's gaze. You're an Omega, and you're pregnant. Ethan wanted to deny it, but Julian already knew. If you're planning to use this against me, I'm planning to help you. Julian gestured down the hallway. Conference room B. We need to talk strategy before this gets worse. Against every instinct, Ethan followed. In the conference room, Julian laid out the situation with clinical precision. The network will want to replace you the second this goes public. It's not personal. It's brand management. America's moral anchor, an Omega who's been hiding his designation for years, now pregnant and unmarried? The scandal writes itself. Sponsors get nervous. Viewership becomes unpredictable. Suddenly, you're not a trusted voice. You're a cautionary tale about Omegas who try to rise above their station. Get to the point. The point is, I can help you control the narrative. Position this as courageous rather than deceptive. Frame you as the face of a conversation about designation discrimination in professional settings. Julian pulled up a draft email on his phone. This goes to the network president tomorrow morning. It preemptively recontextualizes your pregnancy and designation reveal as brave rather than scandalous. And what do you get out of it? Your time slot once a week. A co-anchor arrangement. It gives you cover for reduced hours as the pregnancy progresses, and it gives me visibility. Julian's smile was sharp. Mutual benefit. Manipulative. Transactional. Also, probably the best option Ethan had. 1 week trial, Ethan said. If you leak anything or use my designation against me, I won't. Julian extended his hand. I want to beat you fairly, not kick you when you're down. This is enlightened self-interest. He paused. But you need to understand what's coming. When Noah Park's family finds out about this baby, they're going to weaponize every Omega stereotype they can. Legal questions about consent, implications that you used pheromones to trap him, suggestions about your fitness as a parent based on designation alone. They'll demand verification, bonding status disclosure, medical record. They'll try to paint you as the manipulative Omega and their son as the victimized Alpha. They wouldn't. They absolutely would. Julian's expression held something almost sympathetic. Designation politics get ugly when rich families feel threatened. You're not just a scandal to them. You're proof their golden alpha heir couldn't control his instincts around an Omega. That's embarrassing for them. He leaned back. When they apply that pressure, Noah will have to choose between you and them. Rich alpha heirs usually choose legacy over inconvenient love. Ethan wanted to argue, but he believed it too. So what do I do? You accept that you need allies. You let me help you position this before they can. Julian stood. And you decide whether Noah Park is worth protecting, or if he's just another liability. They shook on it. Ethan felt like he'd made a deal with something dangerous, but at least it was a deal. The gossip started small, a blind item, speculation, then it escalated. Someone noticed Ethan reapplying blockers between segments. Someone noticed the subtle shift in his scent. At 13 weeks, the paparazzi ambush happened. Ethan needed a follow-up appointment. He'd been avoiding the network's medical system, paying cash at private clinics, but he needed one official accommodation request to protect his job. It was enough. When Ethan left the clinic that afternoon, cameras were waiting. Aggressive photographers shouting questions, blocking his path. "Ethan, are you pregnant? Is it true you're an Omega? Who's the father? Is this a designation scandal?" Ethan froze, overwhelmed by flashes and noise and the sudden collapse of privacy. He couldn't think, couldn't move. Then Julian appeared, stepping between Ethan and the cameras with smooth authority. "Gentlemen, Mr. Kim is leaving a private medical appointment, which is nobody's business but his own." Julian's smile was controlled. "Now, unless you want WestBridge's legal team discussing harassment, medical privacy violations, and designation discrimination lawsuits with your employers, I suggest you back up." The threat was credible. Designation discrimination was legally actionable. The photographers hesitated, then dispersed. Julian guided Ethan to a car with tinted windows and a driver who didn't ask questions. As they drove away, Julian typed rapidly on his phone. "Those photos go public by morning. The speculation will explode. Time to activate contingencies." "You had contingencies." "I always have contingencies." Julian showed him an email draft. "This goes out first thing tomorrow. Your pregnancy and designation get reframed before the media can weaponize them. Pioneer, not cautionary tale. And if it doesn't work, then we adapt." Julian's tone hardened. "But brace yourself. Once this breaks, the Park family will move fast. They'll come at you with designation-specific strategies. Paternity verification, consent framing, demands for medical history, suppressant usage, everything. They'll try to use every stereotype to make you the villain and their son the victim." "They can't take my baby." "They can try." Julian looked at him. "And Noah, when they threaten disinheritance and exile, he's going to have to choose. I don't think he's strong enough to choose you." Ethan stared out the window. He thought about Noah's tender moments and cowardly retreats. Gentle hands, family lawyers, promises that kept collapsing under pressure. "I know," Ethan said quietly. "I've always known." That night, Noah called. "I heard what happened. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "Stop saying that. You're not fine." Noah sounded frantic. "My family is going to find out everything. Once those photos publish, my mother will see it. She has people who monitor this." "Then tell her yourself," Ethan said. "Control your narrative instead of letting her write it." "It's not that simple," Noah's voice strained. "She'll want to handle it her way. Lawyers, crisis management, verification protocols. I need to meet with her first. Try to make her understand this isn't what she thinks." And there it was. "You're going to let her manage this," Ethan said. "I'm going to try to convince her not to make it a war. Either you stand with me or you stand with them," Ethan said. "There's no middle ground." "I'm trying to find one." "There isn't one." Ethan's voice went quiet, exhausted. "Go to your meeting. Figure out where your loyalties lie. But don't come back with compromises about verification and protocols. I don't need you to manage me. I need you to choose me." "Ethan, I have to go." He ended the call. The next morning, the network meeting happened. The executives wore sympathetic faces and used gentle language, but the message was clear. Ethan was being reassigned for his health and the baby's well-being, and to avoid any appearance that the network was exploiting an Omega's condition for ratings. Julian would take over the primetime chair temporarily. Everyone pretended it was temporary. No one believed it. Ethan signed the paperwork with perfect composure and walked out with his head high. Inside, he was screaming. When he left the building, cameras were everywhere. The pregnancy was confirmed. The Omega designation was public. Someone had leaked everything. Ethan delivered a prepared statement about privacy and dignity and moving forward with his family. He mentioned no names. That evening, he watched Julian anchor from his apartment. Julian was good, smooth. Everything Ethan had been before his perfect life shattered. Then came a knock at the door. Noah stood there, looking wrecked. I saw the broadcast. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough. I know. Noah stepped inside. I keep messing this up. Every time you need me, I think about my family instead of thinking about you. Yes, you do. But I'm here now, and I want to try. Really try. Noah swallowed hard. Tell me it's not too late. I don't know, Ethan said. Every time I believe you, you prove me wrong. You're right. Noah's voice cracked. I was scared. I am scared. But I'm more scared of losing you. Of our child growing up thinking I didn't want them. Wanting isn't enough, Ethan said. I need you to be brave. And you keep proving you can't be. Then let me prove it now. Noah's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something in his expression shuddered. Ethan already knew. What? Ethan asked anyway. It's my mother. Noah's voice went tight. She wants to meet tomorrow morning. About the pregnancy. Her lawyers have drafted documentation about paternity verification and designation disclosure protocols. He realized what he was saying too late. She wants to discuss how we're going to handle this legally. Handle this legally. Ethan felt something cold settle in his chest. You mean custody frameworks, Ethan said. Scent evidence, medical record access, all the ways rich alpha families control inconvenient omega problems. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? Ethan moved to the door and opened it. Go to your meeting. Figure out where your loyalties lie. But don't come back here with legal documents about my designation. Either you're with me as a person or you're against me as a problem. It's not that black and white. Yes, it is. Ethan's voice was ice. Good night, Noah. Noah left. Ethan closed the door, locked it, and finally let himself break. Not for Noah, for the life he'd built, for the control he'd lost, for the impossible future in front of him. The next morning brought the email. From Park Family Legal Services. Dear Mr. Kim, we represent Noah Park and his family in matters of personal significance. It has come to our attention that you are expecting a child and that Mr. Park may be involved. Given the complexity of cross-designation paternity and the legal frameworks governing omega parental rights and alpha responsibilities, we must ensure that all parties' interests, particularly the child's, are protected going forward. To that end, we request a meeting to discuss arrangements for paternity verification, designation disclosure protocols, bonding status assessment, medical history review, including suppressant usage and heat cycle documentation, and preliminary custody frameworks. We believe a cooperative approach, guided by proper legal counsel familiar with designation law, serves everyone's interests. Please respond at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, Park Family Legal Services. Ethan read it 3 times. The language was polite. The threat was unmistakable. Noah's mother had moved fast, exactly as Julian predicted, and the timing made it clear enough. Noah had disclosed everything to his family, under pressure or not. They weren't just coming for custody. They were weaponizing his designation, his suppressant history, every part of being an Omega that society already used against people like him. Ethan forwarded the email to Julian. "You were right." Julian's response came immediately. "Of course I was." "Don't respond. Let me handle it." And Ethan, it's going to get worse before it gets better. I hope you're ready. Ethan placed one hand on his stomach. At 14 weeks, the swell was starting to become real under his palm. Ready? No. But he'd fight anyway, because that's what parents did. They stood up when they were terrified. They protected the ones who couldn't protect themselves. Ethan Kim had spent his entire life being perfect, hiding what he was, controlling every variable. Now he was going to learn how to be real. How to be an Omega who refused to be ashamed. How to be a parent who chose love over image. And the first lesson was this. When powerful people tried to use your designation against you, you built walls. You found allies, even dangerous ones. You stopped trying to hide who you were. Ethan pulled out his phone and texted Julian. "I'm ready. Let's build that wall. And Julian, I'm done hiding what I am." Julian's reply came back instantly. "Good, because they're coming, Ethan, and they're going to use every stereotype they can. But we're going to make you into something they can't fight, a symbol." In the window's reflection, Ethan saw himself, exhausted, uncertain, visibly human. Not the perfect anchor anymore, not the hidden Omega, just a person trying to survive. Outside, the city lights glittered like promises or threats, depending on how you looked at them. Ethan chose to see them as promises. His child deserved at least that much hope. And somewhere across the city, in a mansion where legacy and designation politics mattered more than love, lawyers refined their strategy. Because Ethan Kim's baby wasn't just a baby anymore. It was leverage. It was scandal. It was proof that even the most carefully controlled Omega could be reduced to a stereotype. And the war for its future was just beginning. But this time, Ethan wasn't fighting alone. And he wasn't fighting ashamed. He was fighting as exactly what he was. An Omega who'd chosen hope over control, love over perfection, and truth over fear. And that made all the difference.